Today is November 27th, 2020. This year has been going on for almost 11 months, which means that there's just one more month left of this year. December 2020 will be the final month of this year because November is about to end. There's only around 3 more days left of this month. After today, there's 3 more days of November. Then you just have the 31 days of December, and then this year will finally be over. And I've got to say, good riddance, because this year has been terrible. This year has been very, very eventful, mostly for the wrong reasons, and so much has happened this year that this year honestly feels like 5 years wrapped into one. Obviously, the number one event that has happened this year in terms of its effect on humanity is the COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has affected nearly every single country in the world, if not every country in the world, and it's affecting the United States worse than any other country in terms of the number of cases. The United States is the only country in the world with above 13 million cases. I'm not sure how many cases India has. They might have broken the 10 million case mark by now, but nonetheless, the United States is dealing with the pandemic more than any other country in that they have more cases than any other country. But this pandemic is affecting the entire world. Everybody in the world, for the most part, has been affected by this pandemic in some way. Even if you haven't gotten it directly or you don't know anyone that has gotten it, you're still suffering from the economic impacts of the lockdowns and the pandemic because a lot of people had to lose their jobs. A lot of people can't pay their bills because the economy is doing terribly now. And also, you also had to do lockdowns for several months, and if you were in school, then you had to do virtual learning. If you had a job, you had to either work remotely or you don't have the job at all now. And then, like I said, the economic impacts have been drastic for this pandemic, and that has really screwed over a lot of people. So it's very unfortunate. This year has just been bad overall. So many bad things have happened in this year, but I guess it's a good thing that it's about to end now this year. But I would like to talk about what COVID-19 will look like in the last few weeks of 2020, and how much more this virus will spread throughout the rest of this year, through the last 5 weeks. I think it's 5 more weeks of this year at this point, yeah. I would like to talk about how COVID 19 will affect the country and I guess the world, but mainly the country as a whole in this video. One of the reasons why I'm making this video is because yesterday was Thanksgiving Day and today is Black Friday, and I'm pretty concerned about the effect that both of these days will have in terms of the number of cases of COVID in this country. Because yesterday was Thanksgiving, a lot of people yesterday were meeting up with their family members. They probably still are today, but a lot of people probably went out of town yesterday, probably went to another part of the country, and probably many families met up and had relatively large gatherings of 10 or more people. My concern is that with these large gatherings, and if people don't wear masks at these gatherings, they're most likely indoors because it's getting pretty cold now. And since it's a Thanksgiving dinner, then you're not going to be wearing a mask. My concern is that the virus will spread a lot because of these gatherings. Because you have these large gatherings with 10 or more people, if only one of the people at these gatherings has the virus, then it's pretty easy for that person to spread it to other people. When you're indoors, when you're at a Thanksgiving dinner and no one's wearing a mask because you have to eat the food, but the problem is that when a lot of people have these gatherings, it really raises the chances of the virus spreading to a lot more people. And my concern is that yesterday might have really spread the virus to many people. And then today is Black Friday. Now a lot of stores are just doing online sales at this point. A lot of stores aren't really doing in-person Black Friday sales, but there are some stores that are doing in-person sales, Black Friday sales, where they're offering special deals in person. And my concern is that today on Black Friday the virus might have spread quite a bit because a lot of people are rushing into these stores. Granted, it's nowhere near as bad as in previous years in terms of the number of people rushing to get these deals in person in these stores, but my concern is that the virus might still be able to spread quite a bit because of these people going to these stores in person to try to get all these good deals. Obviously, the virus hasn't been there in previous years. This is the first year in which this virus has existed. I guess technically the virus existed at the very end of last year, but it was only in China. It was only in the city of Wuhan at the end of last year. That is when the virus started spreading. That is where the virus started spreading, in the city of Wuhan. and it spread to many people because of this one wet market in that city. It's unknown whether or not the virus actually originated from that wet market, but nonetheless, that wet market is what spread the virus to many people because a lot of people who went to that wet market at the end of 2019 or start of 2020, I believe it was end of 2019, a lot of people who went to that wet market ended up getting the virus. So it is unknown whether that's actually the birthplace of the COVID-19 virus, but nonetheless, the virus originated in Wuhan, China, but only people in that area of the world had the virus last year, but this year the virus spread to everyone across the world, spread to basically every single country in the world, and now this is the first year in which a vast majority of the human population has to deal with the consequences of this virus. So my concern is that Black Friday may have contributed to many new people getting the virus that previously did not have it. And you have Black Friday right after Thanksgiving, and both of these days may have caused new people to get the virus, quite a few new people to get the virus, especially when you have both of these holidays back to back, Black Friday the day after Thanksgiving. My concern is that this may have contributed to a new spike in terms of COVID cases. And my concern is that in a week or two, maybe beginning of December, middle of December, you start seeing a giant spike in terms of the number of cases per day in the country. We're already in the middle of a giant spike where on average we have around 160, 140, 160 new cases, 160,000 new cases per day. Anywhere from 140,000 to 200,000 in fact, new cases every single day for the past few weeks. This spike actually started in October, but it wasn't as bad. It got really bad in the end of October, beginning of November. That is when we started breaking new records. That is when the end of October is when we passed the 100,000 cases per day mark. But then in the middle of this month, November, is actually when we passed the 200,000 cases in a single day mark. And the spike isn't going to end for at least a few more weeks. And my concern is that today and yesterday, with Thanksgiving and Black Friday, these 2 days may have only worsened the spike. So what I'm predicting is I'm hoping this prediction doesn't come true. I'm hoping we don't see a drastic increase in the number of daily cases, but my prediction is kind of a pessimistic one. I'm thinking that by the middle of December we'll have at least one day where we hit 300,000 COVID cases in a single day in the United States, and we'll consistently see 200,000 cases per day or more for that time period in the middle of December. And what that means is that in the middle of December, you'll see an even bigger spike than we're currently experiencing in terms of daily COVID cases. And the impacts of this is that a few weeks later, probably early January or very late December, right before the year ends, you'll see a major spike in the daily death count. So you might be reaching anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 deaths per day by the end of December. As you may know, there is a lag between the spike in the daily case count and the daily death count. This happened in the summer where the daily case count in the United States started spiking in the middle of June, but you didn't actually see a spike in the daily death count till early July because whenever you get the virus, if you're going to die from it, it usually takes a few weeks to actually pass away from it. Most of the people who died from this virus didn't die immediately after getting it. They died 2 or 3 weeks after getting the virus because you have to first you don't need for a while you don't even know you have the virus, but then you start experiencing symptoms and then they get worse and worse. And a lot of people recover after going to the hospital or just taking at home medications, but some people it gets so bad that they eventually pass away from the virus. Fortunately, this virus has already taken the lives of almost 270,000 people in this country. It's getting really out of control, but I'm hoping that the vaccines will be available to the general population in the United States and around the world in just a few months from now. I believe the worldwide death count is getting closer and closer to 1.5 million. We passed the 1 million mark a while ago, but we have the daily death count worldwide spiking as well as the United States spiking, which means that the number of cases and deaths in the world is increasing by a lot every day, but the number of cases and deaths in the country is also increasing by quite a lot every single day. We just passed the 13 million case count mark for the United States, so now the country in total has had over 13 million cases of this virus. Soon we're going to hit 14 million because we're having more cases per day now than we did at any other point in this year. And I'm hoping that Black Friday and Thanksgiving don't cause another major spike, but my pessimistic prediction is that we're going to see an even bigger spike. I would say it's a continuation of the spike we're already in the middle of. You're going to see a continuation of the spike, meaning the spike will get even worse, meaning we're not at the peak of the spike yet, which is kind of depressing to think about how the daily case count could get even higher than it currently is when it's already at such a high level. But this is what scientists have been warning about for months. All the experts have been warning about a massive spike in the winter since earlier this year in the spring when we were experiencing the first spike of this virus. But one way that this could be prevented, the spike, is if everybody wore masks whenever possible, but obviously that's not going to happen. A lot of people either are too lazy to wear a mask or they think it's uncomfortable on them. For whatever reason, not everybody will wear a mask whenever it's possible. That's one of the reasons why we're going to see a massive spike in the daily case count and, as a result, daily death count. Then the other reason why we might see a massive spike is because of yesterday and today, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I explained why both of these holidays could cause massive spikes in the case count and death count. For Thanksgiving, it's because you're meeting with your family, and if you do a large gathering, if you meet with your extended family and you all have dinner in the same area, you're not wearing a mask, you can easily spread the virus to other people if you have it. And then for Black Friday, if a lot of people rush into stores to buy certain products in person, then with those crowds, if people are crowded up, then that can cause the spread of the virus. Even if people are wearing masks, there is a chance that the virus could spread from person to person, even if people wear masks indoors. But the chances of the virus spreading is way less if everyone wears masks than if no one wears masks, obviously. But there is the chance that Black Friday could still cause a increase in the daily case count and death count for this virus in the United States. But we're gonna have to wait a few more weeks to see if my hypothesis turns out to be true. If Thanksgiving and Black Friday, in fact, actually contributed to the daily case count, an increase in the daily case count, and an increase in the daily death count. We're gonna have to wait at least 2 weeks to see if an increase in the daily case count happens, and then we're probably gonna have to wait like a month to see if there's actually an increase in the daily death count. If there is a continuation of the COVID spike that we're currently experiencing in the United States, meaning that if the peak of the spike has yet to come, because it is unknown at this moment whether or not we've experienced the peak yet of the spike. If we have experienced the peak, then that would be that one day we had 200,000 cases in a single day. But there is a chance that we have not experienced the peak yet of the spike. And we're not going to know until a few months from now when this whole spike actually ends because I can't tell the future. Nobody can predict the future with 100% accuracy. We're just going to have to do whatever we can to stop the spike from getting out of control. But my pessimistic prediction, is that we will see the spike at its worst in the middle of December for the daily case count, and we will see the spike for the daily death count at its worst in early January, maybe the first week of January or second week of January. Probably the first week of January, but I'm hoping that we've already passed the peak in terms of the daily case count. And I'm also hoping that the current spike that we're experiencing in the daily case count and death count doesn't continue to get a lot worse in this country because it's already gotten pretty bad.